So, no by-election roundup this week because there were no local council by-elections following the full election last week. But we do have a by-election to talk about. And of course, that's the Makerfield by-election, Westminster by-election. Andy Burnham's going to have a tilt at Westminster and therefore a tilt at the Labour leadership and therefore a tilt at number 10. So welcome back. If you're new here, please do subscribe to the channel. Normally, this Friday evening slot is dedicated to looking at by-elections that have happened up and down the country in local councils, but like I said, there are none this week, so we're going to talk about this instead. And look, a lot to talk about, a lot to think about with this. It's a very interesting little situation that we're in here. And why have I got Wigan on the screen? Well, because, as I'm sure many of you know, if you didn't know, you probably have found out in the last 24 hours, but Makerfield, the constituency which is now up for by-election, is in Wigan, or in that part of Greater Manchester. It forms part of the Wigan local authority area. So we have this very recent election that happened just last week to look at in terms of how things might go. And look, it was a Reform domination, as it was across most of Greater Manchester and Yorkshire. Reform got 46% of the vote. I know when he looked at this chart the other day, when we were doing our roundup of the local elections from a Reform perspective, this was certainly one of their better performances, and one that just had such shocking and devastatingly huge vote share declines for Labour in these wards where previously they were getting over 50% of the vote. They were seeing their vote share halve and even more, and Reform pretty much directly picking up that vote themselves, and in quite a few wards they picked up 50% of the vote this time around. Reform won every single seat up for election in the Wigan Council area last week, bar one, which went to a local councillor, the local party, but none for the Labour Party. Labour lost every single one they were defending. So that's the lie of the land as it happens at the moment. There's the vote share change, just to put it into context for you. To Reform with a massive vote share increase of 43.1% or points, and Labour down almost 28 points. And their vote share, like I say, across the council more than halving between 2024 and this election that happened this year. So an interesting landscape to pick as your by-election of choice or constituency of choice to try and get into Westminster to become the Prime Minister. But here is the result from 2024 on your screen now. And what you'll see is Reform in 2024 actually had a pretty good showing here. They finished 13 or 12 or 13 points behind Labour, but they got a very impressive 32% of the votes. At a general election, there was no specific campaigning here. I mean, I'm sure they campaigned hard, the local party, but there was no, as far as I'm aware anyway, no big push here. But so this is clearly an area of fairly fertile, but also organic support for Reform, and hence why obviously they've done so well now 2 years on. This seems to be one of these sort of nexuses of Reform support in the country. The other thing I think to note here, just looking at this, is I think this will be a two-horse race. I don't think we need to talk about anybody else here. Labour and Reform, it's going to be between those two. I don't think anybody else has a chance of winning. The Tories, like I say, look, they in all fairness to them, if you look here, minus 23.4 in 2024. So they got over 30% of the vote in 2019 under Boris Johnson. But bear in mind, that was under Boris Johnson. That election 2019 obviously was a Brexit referendum round two, really, wasn't it? And that was a very successful election for the Conservatives. And then obviously last time they fell away all the way down to 11%. So the Tories aren't going to be competing in this one. They are standing, but they're not going to compete for the top spot. And then the Lib Dems and even the Greens. I mean, the Greens will probably have, if we go back to what they got, the Greens, their vote share increased by just under 9 points. They got 11% overall in Wigan last week. But they're nowhere near troubling the top end of the scorers. They'll get some of the disaffected Labour vote, I'm sure. But I don't think this will be like a Gorton and Denton. The demographics here are not good for the Greens. There is not a high Muslim population. It's actually a very high white English population, I believe, as well. So I don't think the Greens will be mucking it at the top either. So it will be Labour versus Reform. So that was the election results a couple of years ago. Let's have a look and see what the sort of opinion polls or the projections are saying about this place now. So this is Makerfield now, as per the Election Maps UK Nowcast. We used to look at the Nowcast a lot on this channel. We haven't looked at it for quite a long time now. So this is taking, I think, an average of opinion polls and then using a model to project that onto each constituency in the country. It gives you a result in each constituency. So this is a projection, so it's worth saying that to start with. It's a guess, essentially, but with a bit of statistics behind it. And it says Reform are way, way ahead. And this is what most of them say. Poll Check, the website I use to do the predictions for the local elections, has a very similar gap, about 20 points between Reform and Labour. And you can see the Greens there getting about 13.6%. According to the projection, we saw they got 11% in the local elections. So that's pretty close. And actually, in all fairness to Election Maps UK, let's just look at these numbers that they're projecting for Reform and Labour. 46% for Reform, 24% for Labour. And then let's look at what they got. 46% for Reform, 24% for Labour. So pretty much bang on as in terms of the local elections. Obviously, it's a bit different. Like I say, different. Makerfield isn't all of Wigan. There is another Wigan constituency. Of course, that's Lisa and Andy's constituency. But it seems to be a very accurate projection based on what just happened at the local elections. So, look, I mean, this is a big gamble from Andy Burnham, because a big deficit to overcome, to reform. They've just absolutely smashed the local elections, as we've seen. It's hard to think of a more tricky seat. Well, no, you can't. There's trickier seats for him to contest, but it's not an easy. This is not a straightforward contest for Burnham, and it's high stakes. I think it's high risk, high reward. The risk is he doesn't win, Labour lose, and maybe even lose quite badly, and that's basically him done. That's him finished. That's his shot at being a prime minister over. That'll be his political career probably finished entirely. But the reward is equally large. He wins, and it doesn't matter how well he wins. All he has to do is win, and like I say, he will go on to become Labour leader. He will become the prime minister, and he will go into office with the credentials of, look, I am the guy who can take the fight to reform. Keir has just lost our heartlands to reform in the local elections. I've just proved that I can beat reform head to head. I'm the guy to take on Farage, and maybe that's a compelling message to sell to the Labour Party, and maybe that's the start of a comeback. Who knows? But of course, there is the Andy Burnham effect. Now, I don't know how accurate this is, but I've seen this on X and from other places as well, saying allegedly Andy Burnham, his personal vote, could have added another 22 points onto Labour's vote share in Gorton and Denton, and then therefore they would have won it. I don't know how true that is. I know he does have personal popularity up in this part of the world. He's styled as the King of the North. I don't know who came up with that title for him, but he's obviously been the Mayor of Greater Manchester for a long time. I think this is his second term, so I suppose he's going off about 6 or 7 years now as the Mayor of Greater Manchester, possibly even longer. And look, like I say, I don't know how you necessarily calculate this. It seems like it does say hypothetical, but he does carry some sort of personal vote. However, it's not all sunshine and rainbows for him up there. If you know of Raja Mia, I don't know if you do, but if you do, you should follow him. He does wonderful work. He has essentially dedicated his life to fighting for the victims of the rape gangs up in the north, in particular in the Greater Manchester area, and he has a particular bone to pick with Andy Burnham. He is a fierce critic of Andy Burnham because he says, allegedly, he alleges that Andy Burnham has played a large role in covering up those crimes rather than helping victims and helping to get them resolved. So there is also a movement up there against him. Now, I don't know how much, and Roger Meir has come out and said that he will oppose Burnham. He will essentially campaign for whoever's running against him, so I assume he's going to campaign for reform. But so it's not all sunshine and rainbows for him up there. I don't know how significant Roger Meir's sort of following is, and his saying he's going to go against him, and I'm not sure how much weight that carries. But just to make the note that there is a certain element of opposition to Andy Burnham up in Manchester. It's not like he's going to come through and smash it. And look, there's a big deficit for Andy Burnham to overcome here. Can his personal vote carry it? Well, look, 22 points would tie them up, wouldn't it, with reform? Assuming, or probably put them ahead, I suppose, because you'd have to say some of that vote share will come off of reform. I don't know. I mean, it's all. Let me know what you think in the comments, of course. That's what it's all about. I want to see your guys' takes on this. I think my take on this is basically Burnham's only hope is if he can convince enough Labour to reform switchers, the people who voted for reform last week, basically, if he can convince enough of them, look, give me a chance. You are stoic Labour voters, your generational Labour voters, your families voted Labour probably as far back as you can remember. Give me a chance to turn the Labour Party around. Don't give up on it yet. Give me your vote. I'll get into Parliament, I'll become the leader, I'll become the Prime Minister, and we'll turn the ship around. Just bank on me one last time. If he can make that argument persuasively enough and convince enough of those, like I say, ex-Labour voters who are now going to reform to vote for him, then he will win. But I think that's the only hope, really. I mean, Keir Starmer obviously has said he's not going to block Burnham from running this time. I think the best thing Starmer could do for himself would be to go and turn up in Makerfield and start campaigning for him. That would probably seal the deal for reform in this case. Of course, the other thing to talk about is who is reform's candidate going to be. That's worth thinking about. And to be honest with you, on that score, I mean, I've only seen a few things. I don't know the guy personally, but I think just go for this guy. Councillor Robert Kenyon. He won an election last week in a Makerfield ward for Wigan Council. He stood in that general election 2 years ago and got that 32%, like I said, without any specific effort in that one place. He's, from what I know of him, a local guy, local to the area, a plumber, served in the armed forces. I think this is your guy. He did very well 2 years ago. He's a local. He, comes with no baggage. He's not former. I think picking a former Tory here would be a bad idea. I think just go for somebody local. And this guy seems to fit the bill, really. I mean, he's just, like I say, just won his seat in Wigan with a big share of the vote. So he's won it comfortably. His ward was in Makerfield for Wigan Council with a big share of the vote. I think go with it. I think this is your guy. Go with him. You can also, I think, then from the reform perspective, you can pit this as, well, I'm the local candidate. I mean, I know I'm the local candidate. I'm a working class man. I've served in the forces. I want to serve my local community, versus Andy Burnham, who is just using you to get into Parliament because he wants to be the Prime Minister. I think that's the angle you can take with this guy. So that's what, if I was Reform, that's what I would do. I would go with this guy. But obviously applications, I believe, for Reform candidates closing on Sunday. So we'll find out fairly shortly. Back to this. I suppose the other thing to mention is, obviously it's not represented on this projection, is what about Restore Britain? I'm sure a number of you will be interested to know what's going on there. Well, Rupert Lowe has kind of teased his supporters with this message or post on X. Look, it is a tease. As far as I'm aware, there's no confirmation that Restore are or are not standing yet. Catherine Blakelock is a Restore sympathizer member. I don't know if she's officially involved. She said they are standing. I don't know if she's officially involved. There's been nothing from the official account or from Rupert Lowe saying they are standing. There's just been these little teasers like this, and the Restore Britain account put out something saying nobody owns anybody's vote, which would insinuate, just because Reform don't want us to stand doesn't mean we're not going to. And they're completely right in that, by the way. Will they stand or not? Again, let me know what you think in the comments. Will Restore Britain stand here in Makerfield? It'll be interesting to see. I think this can only go badly for Restore, my personal opinion. Look, they've just had a very, very good result in Great Yarmouth. If you haven't followed, then basically Great Yarmouth First, which is Restore Britain, stood 9 candidates in Great Yarmouth for Norfolk County Council. They won all 9 seats last week, and they won them very, very comfortably. But there are caveats to that, which I've mentioned before. I mentioned in the video the other day. To briefly go through them again. This isn't, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking away from the achievement. I'm just tempering it with a little bit of what I think is realism. They campaigned for 9 seats in an election of over 5,000, with even more if you consider Scotland and Wales as well. They were able to focus all of their efforts in one town of one county council. And also the other one that I didn't mention the other day, but a number of you I've seen mention, Rupert Lowe is the MP for Great Yarmouth. And he's very, very generous with his MP salary, donating it to local causes, which is great. Good for him. So he should. But just to say that he has clearly got a lot of personal popularity in Great Yarmouth. I wonder, when you go outside of the borders of Great Yarmouth, does that start to erode quite quickly? And look, the latest polling suggests that still he's unknown by over 80% of the country. So there's that. And the reason I think that things could go badly for Restore is that with all that in mind, you go outside of the borders of Great Yarmouth and there's a chance they could finish quite disappointingly low. Remember, Advance UK contested the Gorton and Denton by-election, and they won a very small share of the vote. I think they came behind the Monster Raving Loony Party, if I remember rightly, which is a bit of an embarrassment. I don't think that would happen to Restore. I think Restore already have a bigger footprint than Advance UK, to be honest with you, so I don't necessarily see that happening, but I do think they could finish quite a disappointing position. On the other hand, they could have a very successful Makerfield by-election, but I don't think they can win it. Like I said, I think only Reform and Labour can win this. I think it's a 2-horse race for winning it. But what they could do is have a successful enough campaign that they take enough votes off of Reform, plus the Burnham effect to Labour means that Labour squeak in just and win it. And then you would be seen as basically the people who enabled Labour to get their guy in to take over from Starmer. I don't know if that would necessarily go down very well with right of centre people, but I don't know. One of those two, I think those are the two outcomes that could happen, and I don't think either of them are very good for Restore. So we'll wait and see if they run a candidate. If they do, I have a feeling the first is more likely. I don't think they'll perform very well. It's my personal opinion, but I think they might struggle to perform in Makerfield. Look, it clearly has swung very much behind Reform last week. Now, Restore people will say, well, that's because there's loads of people there who are saying Reform now, Restore later. Maybe you're right, but I don't necessarily see that being the case. And I think they could eat into Reform's vote a bit. And if that Burnham bounce is genuine and big, then that could cost them the seat. But look, Reform have to, if you're a Reform supporter, I think you need to, because I see it a lot on X, online, on social media, don't go down the, you're splitting the vote argument, because that's what the Conservatives said in 2024. And many people, myself among them, ridiculed them for it. Your job as a political party is to convince people that you are the best on the ballot paper, that you convince them that your idea, your philosophy, your ideology is the one that they should back. There's no point crying about who's on the ballot paper splitting the vote, because they're quite right. Nobody is entitled to a vote. No party is entitled to a person's vote. So, Reform just have to go and prove and convince people that they are the ones. And I think, looking at the scores, going back to our graph, going back to this, I think the people of the people of Makerfield will know after this last week that if you want to avoid a Burnham premiership, basically, because if he wins, he will become the Labour leader and he will therefore become the Prime Minister. If you want to avoid a Burnham Prime Ministership, then you've got to vote for Reform. There's no point voting for anybody else. I don't see the Conservatives picking up any votes here, and that's why I don't see Restore Britain picking up too many votes here either. I think the people of Makerfield will know they've got to vote for Reform to deliver a result like this to avoid a Burnham premiership. I do think it will be closer than this nowcast. I don't think Reform will win with that big a majority, because the Burnham bounce, I think, whether it's 20 points or a bit less, it will be, I think, significant. He does carry a personal vote. But secondly, this is a by-election, and this is a projection for a general election. So two different kettles of fish there, because general election, 650 constituencies across the UK competing all at the same time. By-election, one seat being contested at the same time. I mean, it's going to be funny because, like I said earlier, I don't know how much Labour are going to throw at this. Obviously, Starmer's not going to want Burnham to win. He's probably not blocking him from this seat because he thinks he's going to lose it. And like I said earlier, the best thing Starmer could do for himself would be to turn up in Greater Manchester and start campaigning for Burnham. But yeah, you can throw everything at all the resources, all the time at one by-election. So I think it will be closer than this. Turnout could play a part as well. Turnout in Wigan was 38% the other day, which is not too bad. It's a bit below the national average. I think the national average was around about 40% last week. So if there's a bit more turnout, if more people turn out for a general election vote, maybe Labour gets some more votes there as well. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see. You have to let me know in the comments what you guys think on all those things. Will Burnham win? Will Restore run a candidate and compete against Reform? And how close do you think this is going to be between Reform and Labour? And do you think I'm wrong? Do you think somebody else does have a chance of winning? I still think it's a two-horse race. Thank you all for watching, guys. We'll be back next week. There are by-elections next week, so there'll be a preview on X. Let me show you my X account. And here it is. So Election Watch, at elect_watch UK on X. Please do go over, follow me over there. I'll be doing a by-election preview thread. I did it Tuesday last time. I think I'll start doing it on a Wednesday or a Thursday even, maybe. But anyway, that comes up on there. And then on the Friday here on the channel, we do the by-election roundup, which is what this video would normally be. So we'll be doing that this time next week. There will be probably a couple of videos about the local elections last week. Not many views on the videos that I did this week. So I'm going to maybe stagger them a bit more. I think I did them a bit too quick fire. So I'll bring a couple out next week, and you guys can let me know what you think about those. We're looking at the Green Party's performance and then looking at the national vote shares as well. So that'll be coming up next week on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.